Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Astro-Tarot Deep Dive. I'm here with my co-host, Susheela Kundargi. We are excited to talk to you about April. March was a really big month. There were significant ingressions. Saturn moved into Pisces, Pluto moved into Aquarius. And I think that it's important to name that as time moves forward, it is when we're really going to see the expression of Saturn and Pisces unfold, Pluto and Aquarius unfold. March was just the month in which they ingressed into those signs, but I think it's important to remember that it isn't until these planets begin to get aspected by other planets and other energy that we really start to see what that's all about.
There's a lot of, I was just saying, we were just talking off air about how heavy March was. And despite the things going on in April, overall, it's a lighter month. It's much lighter. And there's some big things like eclipses and Mercury retrograde and all sorts of things. And it just doesn't feel heavy at all by comparison. So I think that's
Right.
a positive springtime thing to, we're in Aries season. It's the new year. It's, the astrological new year. The daylight is increasing if you're in the northern hemisphere. So it's kind of nice that we have these energies to play off of.
Yeah, I love this. I love this so much. I think that there's something about eclipse season that can put us a little bit on edge, but it's important to remember that eclipses are a time in which we are aligned with what's meant for us, and how that unfolds looks very differently for everyone. But what I like about eclipse seasons is that I get to take a step back. I get to be much more mindful of taking a step back, much more mindful of trying to control things, and just really allow myself to be led and guided while still showing up for my life, on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So let's get started. We begin. So let's talk a little bit about where March is leaving us. March is leaving us with brand new energy that we haven't experienced. Saturn in Pisces, we haven't experienced since 1993 to 95. And Pluto in Aquarius, we've never experienced in this lifetime. So that in itself tells us that we are in for a brand new journey. There's a new path that's ahead of us. It's a path that is unfamiliar. And again, we have to give some time for that to show us how we're meant to navigate it.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Now, we begin with April 3rd. And I think that this is important because right off the bat, right off the beginning of the month, we have Mercury, the planet of communication, cognitive thought, ingress into the sign of Taurus. So we have the last bits of Mercury and Aries, the first 2 days of the month. And of course, we talk about that in March's forecast. But almost right off the beginning, we get this grounding Taurus energy. And remember, Mercury is going to retrograde in Taurus, which we'll get to in a minute. So Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd and will remain there till May 14th. Mercury in Taurus by nature is, okay, let's slow down. We're moving from very fast moving Aries energy, which was so influenced by Jupiter in Aries, by the new moon in Aries, by the opening of the equinox in Aries. That's a lot of fast moving energy. And so by nature, Mercury in Aries doesn't really have strategy. It just it's excited, it's invigorated, it feels creative. But now it's moving into a space in Taurus where Taurus says, okay, let's create a strategy. Let's create some grounding, some foundation for everything that's coming up for us right now.
Mhm. So we have such a perfect card as always. We have the Knight of Cups. So all of the knights, they're usually depicted with a horse, and it's the energy of something championing the element of whatever suit they belong to. And so with cups, it's all about emotions and the way we feel and things that fulfill us and love and all those sorts of things. So it's not a fast moving, we've got nights in varying degrees of, completely at a standstill almost, even though they are moving forward, to charging forward like fiery and, intellectually and passionately. The cups is very stable. It's faster than the pentacles. It's arriving at a spot, going 80% of the way, and he's sitting there. He's got his stool and his blanket. He's set up, and now it's like, okay, what are you going to do? It's loyal energy. The knights are usually loyal for a period of time. So the cups are longer term loyalty. So things that you've invested in, things that you've stuck with, you're actually beginning to see that kind of that payout, things that you didn't give up on. And so this could be people, this can be opportunities, jobs, ideas, projects. There's some kind of offer usually. So it's like getting something to a point and then waiting, but you've put in that dedication to actually see some kind of a return or result on that output of energy.
And so much of what Taurus energy has taught us over the last year, especially in the North Node, one of the questions that I've asked repeatedly is, what deserves my time, energy, and attention? What deserves my time, energy, and attention? And so Mercury in Taurus is I feel encapsulates that question perfectly, because Mercury is so much about our cognitive attention, and Taurus is about value. It's ruled by Venus. And so that matters a lot right now. Also on April 3rd, immediately upon Mercury's ingression into Taurus, the first thing that it does to Pluto in Aquarius is create a 90-degree angle, also known as a square. The square in the zodiac is an aspect of tension, and a lot of times it's described as a negative aspect. I have a bit of an issue with labeling aspects negative or positive, but I understand where it comes from. I like to think of squares in the zodiac as catalysts for action, catalysts for change, because they do create enough pressure to where we do feel this internal pressure of, I have to do something. Now, I like this aspect because I think that Mercury and Taurus, coming from the space of, I know what deserves my time, energy, and effort, and square to Pluto in Aquarius, which is feeling empowered towards a future. Aquarius, empowered Pluto, future Aquarius, Mercury and Taurus. I understand that this is going to require long sustained effort. I like that, because it's immense focus. It's immense focus on what actually deserves your time, energy, and attention. On the other hand, Mercury and Taurus can be, this is the way I do things. This is what I know. I don't want to change. And Pluto and Aquarius being an external force that says, you have to change. You have to change, because some things are out of our control. So it's an interesting aspect, and I feel that it's a beautiful way to start off April. I think it gives a certain sense, a certain dose of personal responsibility.
Well, have you ever studied for an exam and then you get a multiple choice and you know the stuff inside out, and you're like, if they ask this question, I know this is the answer. This equals this. Yes. You get a multiple choice exam and you get a question and you're looking at the 4 options and you're like, huh, well, that's different. Now I know the answer in my mind as to what is what, but with these available options, I don't really know which one fits the best. And that's the energy that we have. We have the 7 of Cups. It can cause a little bit of confusion, but it makes you, it forces you to be more discerning
Mhm.
in what those options are. Like there's no mistakes. So you pick something based on what you know, what you feel, what you planned, but somehow maybe these 7 options are not the options that you had in your mind. You know,
Right.
in an ideal world, in theory, you come up with all sorts of things. Then what's presented to you, none of those things match. So you have to kind of go on your feelings or your gut or, some other criteria. Okay, well, these are the options available. So how do I align what it is that I want with what's here? What track is
Yeah.
going to be best for me to execute what I know to be true? So yeah, it's an interesting
Yeah.
energy.
That is interesting. I like that you brought in, you know, it can't be wrong. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no mistakes,
There's no
essentially.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's important to remember because we were also talking about this before we started recording. Um, Pluto moving into Aquarius is a really big deal. It's a
Mhm.
really big deal, for many, many reasons that we can't really dive into right now. But we have to remember that this year, we're only getting a glimpse, like we're only like dipping our toe into the water of Pluto in Aquarius because Pluto remains in Aquarius till June 11th and then retrogrades back into Capricorn to 28 degrees Capricorn from June, mid June, all the way to mid January. So that's 6 to 7 months that Pluto is going to go back into Capricorn. And why are we bringing this up? Because it's important to know that Pluto in Aquarius is such a new energy. One, we can't really approach this energy in the way that we've approached energy in the past. And that's the point. That is the point of Aquarius energy in the zodiac. Aquarius in the zodiac is about breaking the mold. And Pluto is such a powerful energy that that's exactly what it's going to do. But for us to think that we are going to have a clear understanding of Pluto in Aquarius in just 3 months, no, that's not, it's unrealistic. And that's not how astrology works anyway. So Pluto moving back into Capricorn is going to give us the opportunity to say, oh, from March to June, I have an understanding that, for instance, I don't know, my business needs to be marketed in this way.
Mhm.
Pluto moving back into Capricorn for 6 to 7 months is about, okay, how can I position myself financially, responsibly to be able to do that when 2024 comes along and be able to market my business in that way. So Pluto moving back into Capricorn is about allowing us to tie up loose ends so that we can be much more grounded, Capricorn, when we take on Pluto and Aquarius energy. So I think it's important to touch on this because Pluto and Aquarius, in the grander scale of things, is the very quick evolution, especially of technology, in
Mhm.
forms that our human mind can't really fathom right now. So be mindful of that. And that was a lot, but I'm curious what comes up for you.
Yeah, well, I did, just out of curiosity, while we were sort of chatting in our our before we record, in a different deck, it's not even a tarot deck. I didn't even pull. This card jumped out, balance. And just as a card to sum up this month, this energy. And it's about coming back into balance. And it says on the back, balance, all is perfect just the way it is. Own and acknowledge every part of you, and you will find the balance you are seeking. Keep
Mhm.
that in mind because I've got the tower here for our next aspect.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll let you talk about what it is, but this is not as bad as it may look. We always sort of dread the tower, but it's about bringing things back into balance, and that energy is going to last, I think, not even just this month, but for months on end. um
Mhm.
it allows us that little glimmer of, it's almost like trying something out to see if you really want it. You get to do, maybe it's a practicum, in life, of you get to try before you buy, or window shop, or whatever it is. It's that feeling, but really about what's going on internally. That's
Yeah,
what that aspect feels like. But I'll let you talk about what aspect we have coming up next, and I'll go more into the Tower card.
for sure. And so what you're referring to is our April 5th aspect, which is the full moon in Libra. So the full moon in Libra, like any full moons are culminations, and they're culminations of events. They are emotions rising to the surface that have been metaphorically or really brewing beneath the surface. And now it's the time where it comes up. In the sign of Libra, it's the sign of balance, it's the sign of relationships. This is important because as of this month, relationships are going to be an even greater theme in our lives. This full moon, I feel, to me, represents an understanding of how much our concept of relating, our concept of relationship has changed in the last 6 months, which was since the new moon in Libra of September, October? I can't remember when the new moon in Libra was last, but think about how much you've been through in the last 6 months and how that inevitably has shifted your perception, idea of relationship, how you show up to it, how others show up to relationship with you, how that's different because you're different. So this full moon in Libra, I feel, illuminates the openness to a redefinition to relationship. I don't think that this full moon represents, oh, this is my new definition of relationship. I think this illuminates, I no longer relate in that way, and the new way that I'm going to begin relating unfolds over the next 18 months at this point.
So, it's a disruptive energy, and disruptive energies are frequently positive things.
Right.
Every invention has been a disruptive energy. Everything that we rely on, the invention of the car, the invention of the internet, the invention of radio, all of these are disruptive, and they change everything. And so I've been describing to people, we might have even described it in our last month's video. I've mentioned it so often because everybody's going through this energy in some form or fashion, where we've done all that purging, we've done all that stuff. We're ready to go into that new space. You open the door and you realize it's just a long corridor with another door at the other end. And you're like, well, that's weird. I thought I was going to break through. And so you have to drop a lot of stuff. It can't even fit through the doorway. And we thought we dropped a lot of stuff. We get through that door and we're walking through this, and more stuff is falling off because it's such a narrow hallway and everybody's on different timelines, and they're getting to the other end. We're very soon getting to that other end, where once you open that door, it's like you get vacuumed out, or the slingshot thing. And it's going to feel a little bit like this, but it brings you back into balance. It's that disruptive energy of, okay, we're here finally. And it's a bit, it's weird, it's like the plane taking off, or, being brought back to planet Earth again, or, whatever. It's that kind of feeling, but it's ultimately a positive thing. It's just that little moment where you feel like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Why did I wish for this? Ah! We've dropped all kinds of things. We've dropped relationships, we've dropped scenarios, ways of thinking, philosophies, whatever. It's like it just doesn't hold up anymore. So it looks a little devastating.
Right.
It does, but it's great. It's just one shot, poof, and then we're into this other space, and you're kind of like, that's not so bad. That's all right. Okay. Here we go.
Right. I love that on that same day, an aspect that is part of this full moon's chart is that Mercury in Taurus creates a sextile to Saturn in Pisces. One of the things that Saturn in Pisces is going to show us is, I think it's going to bring a lot of a lot more groundedness and a lot more responsibility to Pisces themes, one of them being on its lowest expression, looking at life through rose-colored glasses. And so Saturn brings a dose of self-responsibility of, is that really what you're seeing, or are you convincing yourself of what that's what you want to see? And that's further supported by Mercury and Taurus. That earth energy is always going to show us what is. Earth energy is always going to remind us of there are consequences to our actions. What is the outcome of certain decisions that were made? So with this illumination of the full moon in Libra of, I let go of a lot of things, that's not who I am anymore, and I'm navigating this new space. Mercury and Taurus sextile Saturn in Pisces reminds us, okay, great that you acknowledge that, and now keep that in mind. Be intentional with the connections, the decisions that you make, and remain honest to yourself.
Yeah, I like that you say intentional, because the card that I have here is the Hangman, and it's typically an unintentional thing that happens. But while you're there, it allows you to look at something that you've always looked at with a different lens, from a different perspective. And it's interesting that on the same day, you know, we have this sort of frequency match with color. It's a lot of green, it's a lot of healing, it's a lot of shifting. And there's this little bright light there that she's looking at. So we switch to a different perspective, but we don't live in this space. You have to take, oh, I'm hanging upside down looking at everything. I didn't notice that.
Right.
But this isn't the reality. You're not staying there forever. So that feeling of the Hangman is just a moment of flux. It's a moment of flux. And then you can bring that awareness back into your everyday reality.
Right.
You don't want to live in this place, you know, not much can happen that way. Yeah.
Right. That's a great segue into the next day, because we have to remember that, you know, we break up these energies by day because this is when they perfect, but in essence, the energies kind of meld together week to week, right? So on April 7th, we have Venus and Taurus create a sextile to Neptune in Pisces. First off, we have to remember that Venus is in its home sign when it's in Taurus. And to me, that just feels like a lot of luxurious energy. Treat yourself, indulge a little bit. Venus and Taurus reminds us of value and how deserving we are of, you know, good things in life. The sextile to Neptune in Pisces, that's, to me, that feels like a beautiful day to, again, treat yourself. This feels like massage type of energy, taking the day off for a little R&R. It just, all of those beautiful things. Now, let's say that that's not how that day turns out for you. It's really great energy to, especially with Neptune and Pisces, come back within, ground yourself. It might feel like a day where you might feel a little spacey, a little loopy, because there's a lot of Pisces energy in the air. But Venus and Taurus sextile Neptune and Pisces can also lend itself to really kind and forgiving conversations with others, but still coming from, again, a very realistic place, Taurus energy. And Neptune and Pisces is almost the understanding of, we didn't work out, and I understand that. You're on your own path and I'm on mine. There's a sense of kindness and forgiveness with an immense dose of honesty again.
And I'm going to even just ask you to mention the other energy, because my two cards, you know, as we're saying that they overlap, they're kind of like this recipe, and it'll make a little more sense that way for the tarot anyway.
That's so funny, because when I wrote that aspect, this next aspect, which is Mercury and Taurus sextile Mars and Cancer, I thought it's creating a configuration to also Saturn and Pisces, which happened the previous day. So we did not talk about this, but it's interesting that the tarot brings that up. So Mercury and Taurus sextiles. Mercury and Taurus sextiles Mars in Cancer on the same day that Venus and Taurus sextiles Neptune in Pisces. So Mercury and Taurus sextile Mars in Cancer is Mars in Cancer, as I mentioned last month, it's like the mama bear effect. It's like, how do I take care of myself first? How do I nurture myself first? And Mercury and Taurus, again, that dose of honesty and reality and saying, I cannot possibly do any more if I don't take care of myself. I cannot possibly give any more in a relationship. I can't possibly just like keep trying to bring this person up to speed with me in a relationship if they don't want to, if they can, if they're not ready. So there's this all of this water energy. Pisces and Cancer are very kind. They're very soothing. It's very much like a soul to soul connection, but Taurus is that very balancing and real energy that says, and that's okay. So really interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny too. This past week, the card that I had for the tarot group was very focused on Mars in Cancer. And the card I had was the King of Cups. And so that energy can sometimes be wishy-washy, except with that Mars there, it was making it very much like, no, I'm taking control of my emotions. I'm going to be assertive. I'm not going to be sitting there muddling around in that watery energy. It's like, no, I'm going to just stand here. I'm going to learn to swim, or how I'm going to navigate this. And it was very firm. And you hear a lot of people talking about it being passive aggressive, and it's so not that. It's not passive aggressive. It's very assertive. So with that, we've got the King of Wands, and he always reminds me of Frank Sinatra, who did it his way. On the negative side of this, this king can be selfish, not really caring, just blaring through everything and being very much like very self-centered, because he knows best and everything else. But with this very balanced energy, again, we have Temperance. These two things together, we get the highest aspect of this, which is, let me guide, let me forge ahead, let me be more concerned with cooperation and igniting everyone's passions, and creating this stable environment while we forge ahead. Like, let's link arms and forge ahead together, kind of thing. And this is, there's always the light and the dark with Temperance. And again, it's kind of that theme of the month, of this balanced energy coming into it, where the dark is there, but we also have the light, so we need both. It's fine. Like, these are how things work, and it's just very matter of fact. There's nothing destabilizing in this. It's just really nice, firm, stable, inspiring kind of energy.
And it's a beautiful balance of that earth water. I think I've mentioned it before. Whenever we have a combination of earth and water, it can be fertile ground for something to grow from. And both Taurus and Cancer energy remind us of the themes of longevity, the themes of things unfolding over time. And so the balance of dark and light, how much that's just part of life, and how we get to, and how we navigate that to the best of our knowledge, ability, is coming back to self and really nurturing that.
Yeah, because we need it. As much as we would say, oh, we need light all the time, everything would burn up. We need to close our eyes and sleep every day to regenerate. We need that. It's not a negative thing. It's just the way everything needs to come back into balance.
Right. So we move into April 10th, and that is the ingression of Venus into Gemini, and Venus remains in Gemini till May 7th. So So now we have another activation of Gemini energy. Mars recently left the sign of Gemini after 7 months. And now Venus is going to retrace, obviously, the degrees in Gemini that Mars went over for 7 months. This is important because now Venus retraces Mars's steps. And now we have a different relationship with the Gemini topics and themes in our life, in our chart. So Venus comes in here a lot more intentional. Venus and Gemini is a social butterfly. Venus and Gemini loves the energy is chatty, is information from one to another. Let's collaborate, let's relate, let's do all of these beautiful things. But now we can't just look at Venus and Gemini as just Venus and Gemini. This is Venus and Gemini relating to others, consuming information, outputting information in a much more intentional way.
So we also had the Eight of Wands as an energy mid-month of March. And, you know, the planets and the energies, they don't know that we have this little calendar where we have, you know, a start and a finish. Those energies flow however they flow. And that energy was a lot of the stuff that we'd been asking for, flying at us like crazy. We don't know which thing to catch as it's hitting us. In a progression, so you have 8, 9, 10, we get to the 10 and it's a reset. It's the 10 of Wands. Think again, wands are all about creativity and inspiration and passion, and it's a fire element, and it's the things that get things going. And when you get to the 10, it's usually about exhaustion and a burden, but it's that last point before you can actually put the burden down. It's that little knock that says, yeah, you've actually reached here. And it's kind of, what, I've reached, you know, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there? And you keep saying, no, we're not there yet. Now you're kind of like, yeah, we're there. This is it. We're here. But that's the energy of this. And it's not here in a physical sense, but it's here in a milestone of like, yeah, you are actually here. You're in a different state of mind. You're in a different way of understanding. You're quite possibly around different people. So you get to speak in a different way, do things in a different way, test out your theories, your new ideas, whatever. So it's the end of a burden period.
I love that. Yeah, because Venus energy tends to be very soothing anyway. So yeah, that's really appropriate. One of the first things that Venus does as it ingresses Gemini on April, one of the things it does on April 11th is that it creates a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So connections between Venus and Pluto, depending on the aspect, can represent a lot of times this dynamic, this power dynamic in relationships, where there is someone who is a manipulator, can be very indicative of narcissistic relationships, for instance, right? But that depends on the aspect. Now, Venus and Gemini, we just talked about, there was Gemini represents how we perceive life. Mars having retrograded there for several months, there was a shift in how we perceive life. Venus and Gemini now retraces that, creates a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. And now it's about how I perceive, particularly relationships, because Venus is involved, is much more open. It's different and it's new. We have to remember Pluto in Aquarius is new. Aquarius is always about the future. Gemini is our perception. This is going to be an energy that I think begins to reframe through relational experiences, the types of relationships that we want to experience at this point.
I have a very positive card. It is the 6 Yeah, Six of Wands. A little blip there. It is a Six of Wands. It's victory. And it's also about being in the spotlight, being in the limelight, taking center
Mhm.
stage. On a negative side, it can be like you're saying, that sort of narcissistic kind of like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm the center of attention.
Mhm.
But in a nicer sense, it's like, what is taking center stage? What is it that you're focusing on? Look at your value and own it instead of hiding. If there's things that you want to go after, if there's things in a relationship that you've been staying quiet about, it comes out, and it's not bad at all. It's
Mhm.
very, again, balanced energy, very balanced, very positive, feeling victorious. When we look at that burden that we let go of, oh, this is like liberation. This is like, I'm so glad I finally said that. I'm so glad I finally connected. I'm so glad I finally let my light shine. I'm so glad I finally stopped worrying about whatever, whatever. It's very nice energy.
Yes, and that is a great, again, segue into another aspect that we're experiencing on April 11th, which is a Sun Jupiter conjunction in Aries. Okay, so I have to say this because Sun conjunctions to Jupiter, really any planet conjunct to Jupiter, tends to be described as a really lucky day, a really extraordinary day. And I think that of course, that's possible. Anything is possible on any given day. But we have to remember that Jupiter in the zodiac is like a magnifying glass. It's like a
Mm.
magnifying glass that you're going over, you're reading the little print, and it expands what's already there. It enlarges what's already there. So if Venus in Gemini, trine Pluto in Aquarius, going back to what Susheela said, I'm really glad I said that. Sun, illumination, Jupiter, expansion of that illumination in Aries, which represents the self, the individual, the I in the we. It's simply about expanding, illuminating something that is already there. So, on a more practical interpretation of this, beautiful day to launch things, to have certain conversations that you've been planning for. There is some planning, there's some strategy that needs to come into uh, sharing something on this day. So to your point, the limelight, absolutely shine a light on something really beautiful. Make sure that you've thought about it, you've planned it, so that there's good energy backing it. But also be mindful that a Sun Jupiter conjunction in Aries can also be very explosive with Venus and Gemini, a very explosive conversation. There's no filter, there's just info, facts, facts, facts. And Aries, if you're pissed off, it's gonna show. I'm saying that because I think that a lot of times it's just described as something really great. Something's going to happen. You're going to win the lottery if you play on this day. That's not how astrology works.
Darn it.
I know.
I'm not listening to that. We have the Hierophant, and I was trying not to like giggle and smirk the whole time you were talking, because I'm sitting there looking at this card. It is this higher, it's enlightenment, if you're in that space, and like you say, it's like, it reminds me of walking up to a horse. Okay, horses read your emotions from a great distance. If
Mhm.
you're if you have a problem of some kind in your personal life, or you're angry, or you're upset, you're hungry, you're hangry, whatever, and you're approaching a horse, especially from their left side, they're going to look at you like, whoa, something's wrong, and they'll get defensive and strange and
Wow.
whatever.
Yeah.
So you want to always fix yourself before you approach the horse. You want to get into that, like, okay, I'm going to shake that off and be whatever. This is the advice for the day, because if you shift your energy, you drop all that other stuff, shift your energy and be in that positive place, it's like, whoo, fast track straight to the source. Like you can get massive downloads, you can move a relationship to the next level, you can, it's
Mhm.
everything on a higher level. So if you want the good things to go to a higher level, focus on that. If you
Right,
focus on the bad thing, they're going to go to the next level too. They're going to get turned up as well. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Remember, energy energy flows where attention goes. That's so much of Venus in Gemini. Gemini is the energy of attention, of information, of what we're paying attention to. And Venus is just the reminder of value your attention enough to direct where it's going,
Mhm.
And I think that especially, in the times that we're living where we can really just stay stuck in a trance in our phones and then it's like 45 minutes later like what the it's important that we have ways to come back to self. Okay, so April 14th, Venus in Gemini square Saturn in Pisces. This can feel like I have so many ideas and I want to just do all of them. And I want to collaborate with everyone. And then square to Saturn and Pisces, it's okay, how realistic is that? Or, saying, again, we have all of these ideas, and Saturn and Pisces saying, okay, what is the framework? How are we organizing this? So it can feel like we have a desire to do something, and then like there's a dose of reality that hits us that stops us or hinders us. We can look at it that way, or we can look at it as an opportunity to reframe, to approach it in a different way. And essentially, anything with Saturn always reminds us of less is more. So, how can I not complicate this and still achieve the things that I want to achieve?
Mhm. So with this card, think of it in terms of any kind of energy, whether it's whatever it is that you're expending. So if it's love, if it's time, if it's whatever it is, intellect, ideas, you name it, there's some kind of container that is being required.
Mhm.
So we have the Nine of Wands, which is, there's a boundary there. It's just a visual boundary. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean, it's not a wall. I always say that with this card. It's a line. It is not a wall. You're not barricading yourself up, preventing things from coming in or going out. It's just like, here's the line. Wait a minute. Here's the configuration. We have to just stop here for a moment. And it's that. So if you are giving too much in a relationship and then feeling depleted because you want to connect with everybody, or at your job, all of a sudden you have all this new energy because you've just gotten rid of all those burdens. So now you can take on, whatever. You're so excited to fill up your schedule again. It's like, whoa, 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 let's one thing at a time here. So it's just a nice little gentle barrier where you get to
Right.
say, okay, wait a minute here. Let's just not go plowing forward at full steam.
Right. I like that gentle barrier. That's a great description for Saturn in Pisces.
Yeah, because you can go through. This isn't going to stop anything other than you do actually have to stop for a moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. On April 18th, we have the Sun in Taurus sextile Neptune in Pisces. Remember, uh, Venus did this on April 7th. Um, I think that this is, again, another great day for anything creative. For those of you who are creatives out there, um, this is really beautiful energy again for certain conversations. Um, But to me, this feels like an energy of aligning, of understanding, of what we want to align with in our lives. Again, the sense of intentionality. Neptune in Pisces represents that which we can't see just yet with this human eye. Neptune in Pisces is very much that Kundalini yoga experience, very much going within, while the sun in Taurus is anything but. It's very material, it's very real, it's very 3D. We have this combo of 3D, 5D energies. And I think that it's just one, it's a reminder of how we can combine those things within us and create our reality. But this is also a great day to perhaps slow down a little bit and rethink an approach to something. It's, to me, it feels like a reminder of you don't have to rush anything. If you are certain that this is something that feels honest to you, that is aligned with you.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you're saying too, the Taurus part, the material part, the 3D with the 5D, because we have the 6 of Pentacles, and Pentacles are all about material, tangible things. They're quite often money, or the things that money can buy, the things that you can actually add up or calculate. And there is this infinity symbol in the background. So what we often fail to realize is that even material things have energy behind them. And we put out this much, we put out, 10 doses of effort, and we get 10 doses of good karma back, whether, $10 or whatever. And this is that reminder of the part that's unseen, is that it's often not direct reciprocity, that you put that out there, you put that out there, you put that out there, 10 different places, and maybe only one of them reciprocates, tit for tat. The rest of that energy comes from some other place. And so, the reminder is to not be resentful. Like, all of this is good as long as you're still maintaining those boundaries and not just over giving, over expending of all of your energy in whatever fashion, that it is coming back. So there's that intangible part of knowing that this outlay of energy, or this outlay of effort, or this outlay of love comes back to me in some other way, while staying in balance again. So, like, look at the similarities here.
Oh my God, yeah.
Infinity, it's infinite. You don't run out of it if you keep it in balance.
And that's a beautiful reminder, because so much of Saturn and Pisces is about that. Again, just gentle boundaries, because Neptune and Pisces by itself, and almost in its lowest expression, is boundless. No boundaries whatsoever. That never works out for us here in this 3D human realm. That's not the point. We live in a world that needs healthy boundaries. Now, I love this because, again, Sun in Taurus, sextile Neptune in Pisces, the combination of 3D, 5D. The next day, we have the first eclipse of this year. It's a solar eclipse in Aries at 29 degrees Aries. So it's a new moon eclipse in Aries. We have not had an eclipse in Aries, where Aries will soon be the North Node, in about 20 years. The last time we had eclipses in Aries was the South Node, and that was about 9 years ago. So again, introduction to new energy. The fact that it's at 29 degrees lets us know that there is an understanding, there is a maturity that needs to go into the opening of this solar eclipse, especially in Aries. And Aries isn't necessarily the most mature sign of the zodiac. This isn't anything against anyone Aries, but it's just the succession of the energy. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It represents when the newborn comes out and screams because they're cold and hungry, right? So there is the 29th degree lets us know, yes, we are new at this, but we do have a lot of knowledge, 29 degrees, to move into this opening again in a much more intentional way.
So lovely card. We have the 9, very important number. It is the, again, we're almost at the end of this
Right.
cycle.
Mhm.
And it's a very positive, again, grounded in the material world here. It's money, autonomy, success, abundance, wealth, and whatever that
Mhm.
means to you, being self-sufficient. And, if we look at her expression there, it's fun, it's easy, it's flowing, it's finding that groove. There's also all these herbs hanging there. So it's like thinking about the future. It's like, okay, I have what I need and I have extra and I have stuff that I can save for the future. I have some that I can give to other people. So it's a very confident feeling if you're in that high vibrational space.
Mhm.
Negative level, it could be being too autonomous and not letting anybody in.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
really, everything is leading us to that higher vibration, like nudging us all the way through this month of like, find the higher octave of all of these things.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a beautiful card for that eclipse. Um, so, directly after on April 20th, the sun moves into Aries. I'm sorry, the sun moves into Taurus. And Taurus season is about, again, it's an earth energy. It's about, I love Taurus energy because it reminds us how important it is to feel natural in our spaces. So, what I mean by that is that if we don't feel like we can just be ourselves in a space, if we're tense and we're feeling like we're walking on eggshells and we're pretending to be something we're not, we're acting in some way. Taurus energy is the energy that says, then you don't belong there. And that's okay. Right. Um, Taurus energy reminds us of our body, our senses, how they are the GPS system for us in this very human world. So I love Taurus season, but I guess I'm also biased because Taurus season goes well with Capricorn energy. I don't know if you want me to go on to the
Yeah, yeah,
next. Yeah.
sure,
Okay.
yeah.
So the first thing that the sun does as it ingresses into Taurus is that it creates a square to Pluto and Aquarius. So this isn't completely new energy. Mercury did this back at the beginning of the month on April 3rd, when it ingressed into Taurus. So now it's the sun, our identity, our ego, our vitality. Again, how do we show up in the most honest, authentic? Taurus energy has so much to do with authenticity, uh, natural way of being. Square Pluto and Aquarius into a new job, a new circle of friends, a new collaboration, a new relationship, which is Pluto and Aquarius. Again, so much of Pluto and Aquarius is about this path that is unfolding, that is unlike anything we've seen before, and everything that Taurus is doing is about, okay, but who are you? How do you ground in you and how do you show up? And it's a square, so it creates tension. And I think that the tension is to remind us it's okay if this is new for you, but still come back to what Taurus reminds us of, which is the essence of us.
Mhm. Wonderful. So you're going to find this a strange card for this. The 4 of Cups. So she's looking there kind of pessimistic. She's got 3 bowls that she's focused on, not noticing this opportunity here. All the rainbow colors are coming out of this bowl. There's a hand offering it, not paying attention, looking over here. So this is that reminder of, we've done all this work. Stop looking at the old stuff. We're entering this new phase. Look at the new opportunity. There's a magical, phenomenal, wonderful, rainbow colored opportunity approaching. And with that, we have the Knight of Swords. So earlier we're talking about the different speed of all the knights. And this knight is pretty quick. He's got his crossbow ready and running forward. When we put those two energies together, entering into Taurus, It's like, are we running back to, oh my God, the sky is falling. Oh, all the bowls are empty. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Or are we running towards, wait a minute, there's this cool opportunity that I've been waiting for. It's
Mhm,
kind of freaky. I better act on it. And it's like, hit
mhm.
the ground running. This is very practical energy here. You know, there's like farsightedness, looking ahead. He's prepared. He's got the right footwear. He's got the right gear. Whatever it is that he's doing, he's ready to go. And it's like, focus on that instead of being pulled back. You know, there's that feeling too of all of this. There's a lot of like underlying themes, like there's education and higher levels of learning. And a lot of people do things like they will hop on every new course there is, you know,
Right.
every kind of thing. And none of it is going to be applicable if it doesn't come back down to the person at the end. You know, you can
Mhm.
offer, you can go to, you know, do whatever, ayahuasca or whatever you're going to do, get different certification. If you're not going to actually do the stuff internally, that's the practical part, the Taurus part, like actually do it and change something inside, then you're just running after stuff.
Yes. As as someone who is guilty of being very tempted to do all the courses and read all the books and do all the things, I have to be mindful of slowing down and saying, how much have I even integrated and really thought about the last book I read, the last course I took, right? Um, and so much of just the overall energy has to do with what you just said. You have to slow down enough. And that's the thing. Pluto in Aquarius is going to speed things up so much over the next couple of years. And again, we're getting glimpses, we're dipping our toe into the Pluto in Aquarius pool. And the biggest activations it's having are from Taurus. The
Mm.
initial bigger activations that Pluto in Aquarius is having are in Taurus, which is okay, but come back to self. How have you learned in the last year with eclipses in Taurus, with a North Node in Taurus, to come back to yourself and trust yourself? So that's a beautiful read of that. Those cards were so spot on with that. Um, so that takes us, interesting, uh, April 21st, Mercury starts its retrograde in Taurus till May 14th. So since the beginning of the month, we've had these connections of Taurus to Aquarius, Taurus to Pisces. And that's a lot. That's a lot. I feel that Aquarius and Pisces energies can feel very big in a lot of ways. Aquarius is the sign of the collective, right? Of community. It's not just the self. And it can be, but I think a lot of it has to do much more with the collective. Pisces is the energy of the ethereal, of spirituality, of but also looking through rose-colored glasses, escapism, addiction, right? So everything that takes us away from this very real grounded reality. So Taurus has been playing with both of those signs throughout the entire month, and we finally get to April 21st where Taurus retrogrades. I feel that this retrograde is so perfect in the middle of all of this eclipse new energy because it gives us the opportunity to slow down. Mercury retrograde is always about revisiting, revising, reconsidering, reviewing, rethinking, and Taurus is this one of the signs in the zodiac that reminds us of the gift that it is to move just at a slower pace. So I think Mercury retrograde in Taurus is going to give us the opportunity to really think about how we fit into this significant shift that we're experiencing.
It's funny because, you know, everybody gets worried and there's a Mercury retrograde, you know, it happens 3 times a year and everybody kind of freaks out. And
Yeah.
you know, in the history of Mercury retrogrades in my memory, I'm actually looking forward to this one. I think
Right.
this one is going to be amazing. Like it, I don't feel any of the negative stuff that I would normally be bracing myself for. And the card
Hmm.
that comes up is just amazing here. It's the 8 of Cups, and it's we dropped all kinds of stuff. Remember, we dropped everything, all the burdens, all the thoughts, all the ideologies, friendships, relationships, you name it. And then we get to that point of like, oh, did I go too far? Did I drop everything? And so you're talking about revisiting all that sort of thing. And it's there, and it's like, no, I'm actually walking towards the light. I am walking towards uncharted territory, and it's okay. There's light over there.
Hmm.
I'm leaving behind this. Not all of it was bad, but I can't take it all with me. So I'm going over there. And it's such a nice card. People often again feel that this card is negative too, because it's like turning your back on something that you put a lot of effort into previously.
Hmm.
But that's also like sometimes we stay with things, ideologies, traditions, friendships, relationships, jobs, whatever, because I put so much time in it. Well, it's the stupidest reason to stick with anything, really. It's
Right.
not working, and you tried fixing it, so put it down and get something else. Like,
Hmm.
that's what this is about. And so I think it's a really welcome energy for a Mercury retrograde, like the first time I can remember, really. Like really feeling comfortable in that 3-week period of time.
I think so too. And I think I love that you said it's a 3 week period of time, because I think people also need to remember it's a 3 week period of time. The way that, and 3 weeks just fly by. So please just remember the greater context, because I do get a lot like, oh my God, Mercury retrograde. And, just it's okay. We'll be fine. If your laptop needs to be replaced, then you'll replace it. I mean, what are you going to do? Right. Okay. So not the next day, on April 23rd, 2 days later, this is interesting. Mercury, now retrograde in Taurus, creates a sextile to Mars in Cancer. So I really love what you said about, the reconsideration that comes with realizing that you've probably overstayed in a certain situation or place.
Mhm.
Remember, Mars in Cancer is about what makes us feel nurtured and safe. Mars there is about how do we kind of protect that? How do we really honor that? The things that make me feel nurtured and safe are having, healthy relationships, are being able to take care of myself, moving at a slower pace. I protect that. That's important to me because I've worked very hard for it. Now, Mercury retrograde in Taurus can be, to your point, are the things that you are protecting and really holding on to, do they still serve the same purpose? Or it can also be, how much are you really prioritizing the things that nurture you and take care of you?
Mhm.
Um, both Taurus and Cancer in the zodiac are very much about the sense of safety. Both have very, again, nurturing qualities to them. When you think of Taurus, you can think of food. When you think of Cancer, you can think of chicken soup for the soul, right? So it's again playing with these 3D, 5D realms or energies, and them coming together, and us getting really clear about what really nurtures me, what really helps me feel grounded.
It's amazing that you use the words like safety and protection and nurturing, because we have the strength card.
Hmm.
We have
Hmm.
the lion up there, and then we have the little lamb. And so strength often shows up when there's something to be afraid of or something difficult. You require the strength, the bravery, or whatever to do something. And it's still that gentle energy, though. It's not um explosive. It's not
Right.
that kind of strength. It's not the strength of the tower. This is like okay, how do I stand up for myself? How do I protect my ideas? How do I get the courage to like speak my truth? How do I find the strength to continue or do something different or move away from something,
Hmm.
whatever. It's that kind of thing. And then remembering that there's still that little lamb aspect of this. Not It's not all, starving, roaring lion.
Right,
It's
right.
otherwise it would be depicted differently. It would be a lion on the Serengeti, ripping apart a wildebeest. It's not that. It's noticing these two aspects in yourself, both representing strength.
Yes, yes. um be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, be, you know, you can um have this very kind accountability. Again, Taurus is about accountability, but Taurus energy is actually very kind in its highest expression. There's a quality of kindness in there. um and none of it is telling us that we have to like beat ourselves up. It's all, again, can you be honest with yourself? And based on what that honesty brings up, how can you kindly move through that?
Mhm.
Um, okay, so April 25th, we have the Sun in Taurus create a sextile to Saturn in Pisces. Anytime that the Sun and Saturn meet, particularly in a softer aspect, it's a sign of commitment. The Sun represents us, our identity, our vitality, our ego. In Taurus, this is who I am, the most honest expression of myself, sextile Saturn in Pisces. And I commit to these things in my life that Pisces give me give me a greater sense of purpose, connect me to, my soul spirit, to that connect me with different groups of people. So again, Taurus, earth, Pisces, water, this is to me, this also feels like healing energy. Like there is the sense of, when I honor the honesty that Taurus brings, there's something inside of me that heals. I don't have to, again, pretend to be something I'm not.
Yeah, and it's if you've noticed there's this progression of leaving things behind and going forward and leaving
Mhm.
something else behind and going forward and having the strength to whatever. So we have death and rebirth and we have look at what's in there. It's like sun, stars, some kind of illumination happening again. So
Mhm.
it's this theme, even going back to the Eight of Cups just a couple of days before. It's very similar. And then you make the transition. You go into that
Mhm.
place where one aspect dies and then another grows. You have to have that strength to sort of cross over and do that, to come out that other side. And it
Yeah.
is, it's positive. You can't bring it all with you. So how do we move from one thing to the other? Just you have to trust, keep one foot in front of the other, keep the foot on, the feet on the ground as you go through, and just keep going. And it's like it's such a nice energy.
Love that. Um, Finally, on April 29th, we have Mars in Cancer, sextile Uranus and Taurus. Once again, water and earth. Cancer, water, Taurus, earth. Mars in Cancer, I've described what I think is the essence, especially in this season. And the sextile to Uranus and Taurus has been, Uranus is always the element and the planet of liberation by breaking the mold. Uranus rules the sign of Aquarius, where Pluto just recently ingressed into. Uranus and Taurus is about breaking the mold of the things that used to bring us comfort. And when we break that mold, when we decide, either by our own choice or life circumstances, to bring us out of what used to bring us comfort, we're really connecting much more with what's meant for us, especially again during eclipse season.
So
Mhm.
Four of Swords. It is the card of self-care. And how, I mean, Taurus is all about, all of those kind of self-indulgent things, but sometimes we need to, and not
Mhm.
overdo it. But it's like, what better form of self-care than to be true to yourself, really,
Mhm.
and be okay with that. Like, what else can you be?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so even just while you were speaking, I reached into my little bag of runes just to see if there was an additional energy to close it off. And like, honestly, you cannot make this up. Okay, so we started with this, right? Okay.
Right.
Balance, harmony. There's no up or down to this. Well, I don't know if you can see this. There we go.
A little bit. Yeah.
Show you?
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like an infinity symbol, but with sharp edges, right? So we've seen
Mhm.
that throughout today's readings. There's no reverse of it. So it's dag. It means dawn, new day. It's
Mhm.
also that infinity thing. Every cycle, we still get to start over the next day. As long
Mhm.
as we wake up, it's a new day, right? And
Right.
even if you don't wake up, well, we're starting something new on some other plane, right? It's like
Right.
it still continues. So it's a very positive rune for when you think about this whole month. Even if you are looking to make a change too, if you are looking to, you're taking those little steps in the material world, but you really are looking for the new phase. Like, I'm really trying to get into that. That's a little symbol that you can keep on you, stick it in your wallet, or stick it inside your watch, or in your pocket, or with your crystals in your brassiere, whatever. um it's a very positive, affirming symbol. So it's kind of cool that popped out.
That is really cool. That is really cool because I think, I mean, at least what it brought up for me was every day is a new opportunity.
Yeah.
Every day is a new opportunity, and so much emphasis on earth and water, earth and water. We're planting seeds for something new. And again, this new, this whatever it is that we're planting seeds for, give it time. Give it time. This is brand new. I'd say give it at least 6 months until we have, the next uh the full moons to these new moons, the next
Mhm.
eclipse season, but give it a little more than that because we're learning what this new territory feels like, who we are in it, how we want to show up in it. There's so much about intention with this new energy. Um, and that I think is empowering because if we are mindful of how we're showing up for our lives, then I think eventually over time we understand, oh, I do have the power to create my own reality.
Yeah, and people might have been feeling like they've been going through day after day, month after month of not having a new day. This
Mhm.
switching that perspective again, like back to that, the Four of Cups of, I'm just still looking at the same old three empty cups. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
there's this other thing, and it's like, kind of like, look over there, the sun is still coming up. Like, you just have to shift a little bit. And like you say, we're entering this new, very uncharted territory, as a collective, and it's the beginning of something. And nobody on the planet has experienced this combination of things before. So
Mhm.
it's pretty cool.
It is. Well, thank you all for joining us one more month. We hope that all of this information is helpful. Um, if it is, please like, subscribe, and share our videos. We have a lot of fun doing them, and I mean, I'm sure that you get feedback as well from people that this is a really helpful tool.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.